boom. Did I do this right? Hey, there we are. I think all of us showed up correctly on stream. What up, everybody? This is episode 2 of Afternoon Tea. I'm Sajam. That over there. Oh, I went the wrong way. That over there is Vicious. I was going to intro you guys. I didn't. You can't tell where I'm pointing. Below me is Filipinoman, and then down that way is Brian F. Hey, perfect.
Hello.
Nice work.
Is
it inverted? I'm not trying.
Yeah.
Is this Brian?
No, you're pointing off screen. You're pointing at nothing. There's just an empty void in that direction. It's messed up because you know when you do like online tournaments for commentary, the secret is I always like move my head to see which side I need to move it to. So you'll see I'll just be sitting there and I'll like lift the shoulder and I'll be like, okay, it's the right shoulder. So I got to point in that direction. Like that's how I figure it out. That's my strategy. Yeah, well you have to.
You got to do it raw, man.
No, you should always be protected when you figure out which side to point at. That's the way it's supposed to work.
50-50.
No, it's don't do that. That's not good.
Someone just walked in. They're ready to listen to the podcast in person.
Wait.
What? What's the matter with you, Jeremy? You're freaking me out.
No, I just heard someone's door open and shut violently.
Mine's 100% closed.
Yeah, mine too. My roommates I don't even know what they're doing today.
It's Brian.
No idea what you guys are talking about.
Okay, it's Brian. What happened?
What happened?
Alrighty.
You gonna do this thing or what, Jeremy? You're the host.
Yeah, I was looking at it right now. So, a lot of topics happened over the month. One of the more notable ones is Lord Umehara revealing that he's a big, blatant cheater with the Gafrobox. That's not true. He's not a cheater. But it's been a pretty hot topic, and people have been talking about it a lot. He's been using the Gafrobox. He's been streaming with it every so often. A lot of people have seen the kind of results it can produce and how much easier it is on the inputs. And it's got a lot of people talking, even people on the Pro Tour, like the higher-ups at Capcom. Daigo using the Gafrobox. Do you think it's a yay or nay for him using it?
The whole thing about the Gafrobox is like hitboxes have come a long way in terms of what they do input-wise and like what the standard like accepted type of input for a hitbox is. And what just cracks me up is that like it apparently was never an issue until Daigo like showed like one video that lots of people watched where someone like quote tweeted it and was like, hey, actually when you hold back and forward at the same time on most modern hitboxes, it's supposed to be neutral. And then like it started this big huge debate, and then a lot of people are like, is it supposed to be banned? Is he allowed to use it? And like it's this crazy discussion and conversation about something that I feel like it was not really that big of a deal. Like it's like a very easy thing to fix or decide to change or anything, but like it created such a huge buzz. It was really funny to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so one of the things I did talk to one of our resident hitbox players over in SoCal was Chris Wynn, was how the newer ones, whereas instead of going back to neutral, if you hold it and you go forward, it just replaces the most recent input. So going forward, you could still maintain your charge the fastest way possible by doing so, which allows charge characters to have an easier time buffering their specials or critical arts for that matter.
Yeah, like that was the main clip that we saw, right? I mean, I think there's like two methodologies about how hitboxes are like supposed to accept inputs or how they do accept inputs, which is if you're holding back and then you hold back and you hit forward at the same time, either two things happen. One, it takes the newest input, which is forward in this case, right? Or two, it goes neutral. Those are like the two ways usually it handles SOCDs, which is simultaneous opposite cardinal directions. And so like depending on which it does is better or worse for different things. So if it goes to neutral, that's really good for a game like Tekken where neutral commands are super useful. If you're like wave dashing or Korean backdashing or doing electrics, there's something that requires a neutral input in it, then having the ability to use that to go neutral is actually like a benefit. But if it's like a charge character in Street Fighter, having it hold the forward input for you or whatever the opposite direction is actually really useful for their like, you know, inputs that are hold charge and then forward back forward, like a Guile Super or something like that, right? There's like different inputs like that are useful. So I actually think like which version of the hitbox software and how it determines what happens is like more or less beneficial depending on which game or character you're using it for, like whatever their inputs are.
Yeah. There's still a certain amount of skill to use all of these things. Is it still, I mean, do you think it still gives an advantage over other players who aren't using a hitbox?
Yeah, it's definitely the most optimal way to input directions. Well, depending on some techniques, I think I heard that some people were saying for maybe 360s or something like that, it's easier to use stick. But in terms of like what's the future and what has the highest skill ceiling, it's definitely clear that using a button sort of interface per each direction rather than a more, I don't know, there's more analog, there's more human element to a joystick. You have to physically move a greater distance.
Yeah, there's travel time.
There's some ambiguity to it. There's far less ambiguity to pressing a button. And especially for charge characters, you can immediately return to get frame perfect charge. There's no time spent in neutral, which for a game like Street Fighter, being in neutral is never an advantage or required for any sort of input. So it's definitely like the future if you want your cleanest inputs. And one of the best examples I can think of is if you're trying to block an overhead. When I hold down back, so in Street Fighter by default, you're generally holding down back to block, and then you react to overheads with the back input. When I try to clutch block an overhead last second, sometimes I'm like, oh crap, and I just immediately fly to up back, and I'm jumping out of the way, but I get hit on the ground anyways because you're trying to do this last minute reaction. On a hitbox, you're holding down and down back. Oh crap, an overhead's coming. I let go of down, now holding back. There's so much less physically involved to perform the input and get exactly what you want. So the skill ceiling is definitely higher, and there's more room for accuracy with a hitbox. But should it be banned or not? I mean, the only thing I have to say about the controversy with Capcom finally banning it is I think all controllers should just input whatever you're inputting. So if on a hitbox you're hitting left and right, it should input both those directions, and then it should be at the software level that the game decides what happens. So if I go on, I pick up my PS4 pad right now, I can do left and right, I'm pretty sure, with both of these sticks. And people,
you can.
Knuckle Dude does this for charging. I know Mike Too Strong buffers SPDs by using both the joystick and the D-pad at the same time. So it should just be a software level thing. If I can input both directions, the software should decide what happens.
Yeah, I feel like I'm going to be more extreme about this because I hate the hitbox and I hate pads. Like, it's like straight up cheating to me, and I hate that Street Fighter 5 didn't come out on arcade first to stop these people from being able to use
these people.
It would.
Yes, these people.
But how would it coming out in arcades stop people from playing hitbox on like a home console?
I'm saying there should be like a 2-year entry in arcades like before, or like there should be like updates like in Street Fighter 4 that force you to use stick. But now there's just no reason to use the old wear. And another thing is, it's actually funny that Brian brought up the overheads because Daigo is facing like strict scrutiny from a lot of hitbox players in different discords and different like terms of media, where he actually blocked 0 overheads against the Urian that beat him at this tournament.
Yeah, he got smoked.
It takes time.
0 overheads.
And that thing has a large startup.
Dude, I mean, I think like the chances that Daigo feels 100% on a hitbox versus a stick is like 0%. It's 0% chance. He's still learning how to use the hitbox. And just because it's faster to react, block, and overhead doesn't mean you will react in time to see and block an overhead if you're looking for other stuff. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's other things that happen. But I will say that saying that you wish that Street Fighter had, like, an arcade release first and then delayed to console or something, absolutely not. I hope that Capcom calls you and is like, Filipinoman, would you want to work on Street Fighter 6? I will come to your house and I will kick the phone out of your hand. I'll roundhouse kick the phone out of your hand.
Like, it's just because there's no reason to use stick anymore with these new things. And you can always, like, did you see the hitbox with the stick? Like, there's new ways to like update your stick to make it better for you.
That is cheating.
It's definitely cheating. And like, there's no regulation on these sticks. I can make a macro on my stick, and you wouldn't even notice I was macroing something. I definitely think that.
Yeah, I mean, macros.
Like 1 button 5 input thing, you would not notice me doing lightning legs with Chun-Li on 1 button.
Yeah, but the thing is I think macros are not allowed, but testing for them is very hard because of the nature of our tournaments, right? For open bracket tournaments, you can't individually test every button on every arcade stick. So you just have to assume that, like, at a software level, all the sticks are the same, and then at the game set level, like Brian said, that the software interprets the inputs the same kind of way. And on that topic, it's interesting about hitbox, or I guess pad or anything else, is like Marvel used to have that issue, right? With if you hit left and right at the same time, it blocked both sides because it had like a software issue with it in Marvel 3, and then Capcom patched it and changed it so that if you held left and right, it wouldn't block both sides.
I think it
at
got
the same
even
time.
worse than that. I'm pretty sure you can keep infinite charge. There was something very bizarre about it. I saw some like tech demonstrations of how Hulk was doing infinite, the gamma charge, or
Yeah,
the charge move
the
where he throws the
wave that he
screen.
does.
It's the shoulder, right? Isn't it? I thought it was
So-
shoulder. Yeah, either way.
No, it's the
No, the
it's
projectile.
ground projectile. And
Shit.
yeah, that it was just the software was totally not meant to handle simultaneous SOCD inputs.
Yeah.
So I think this is just something that should be determined at a software level, besides the macro issue, which I think is a whole other level of like how far does regulation go with our community? Which is funny because I saw a thread by WYDD. He like does a lot of the input lag testing, and so he's a very common reference if you guys see him on Twitter for like what's going on with input delay and just tech and fighting games in general. He compared. I think he did what was it, Rubik's Cube? He did regulation for Rubik's Cubes for some kind of league that actually people speed run solving Rubik's Cubes, and he said they had hundreds and hundreds of pages of what determines a tournament legal Rubik's Cube. And he said compared to the CPT rules, there's actually like a paragraph or something of what's legal. And it is a very interesting thread if you look it up on Twitter about what determines, allowing, how do you regulate this sort of thing? And the thing is, we're just the Wild West. We have no regulation whatsoever. There's some common in the spirit, which is what I think the term Capcom fighters or Capcom used with the Gafrobox. But it's pretty interesting that we just have none, and I do think this needs to be ironed out. And to me, it's just ban macros, and then let the software determine what's left.
Yeah, I mean, having a macro that inputs multiple things, like it does quarter circle forward kick on one button or something, is obviously like, all right, come on, like that's not how a joystick or any kind of like input device is supposed to work, right? Even if it's like pad or whatever it is, it's not supposed to be like that, or whatever it is. But yeah, to me, I think that that's kind of where it's at. In terms of like regulation, CPT usually sets the standard for most things. You know what I mean? Like whatever CPT does is like tends to be what other tournaments sort of gravitate to in terms of rule sets and stuff like that. So I think the CPT reaction was like, oh no, there's something happening with this Hitbox Gafrobox situation. We need to get on top of it. And they're like, what do we do? So instead of being like, all right, let's figure out what's happening, they just like jumped on the grenade and was like, we got it. It's like covered. We're on top of it. And like it exploded and they're like, whew, we're fine. Like nothing happened. So, I mean, like Daigo switched back to like a regular hitbox instead of the Gafrobox. And Gafro's, his hitbox himself, he like changed it so that he has like the new software where if you hit left and right at the same time, it goes to neutral instead of like what he had before. So like they've kind of gone back to like the regulation of SOCDs being like, if you hit two different directions at the same time, you get neutral. And I think if like the controllers all follow something like that, then it's probably fine as long as there's like a certain like if these two commands happen at the same time, the game interprets it as this, no matter what input device you do.
If I boot up Street Fighter 5 on a keyboard and do left and right, what does it do right now?
Probably
It goes
neutral. Yeah.
Yeah, because I play on keyboard. Like,
but then what happens if I do it on a pad? Does
it
also
goes? It goes left to right.
Does it?
It bypasses it.
Oh, that's right. I see those
Yeah.
mix-ups. Broski posted with Sim, where it's pad-only mix-up. He teleports above you and holds left and right, and it just vibrates left and right.
What?
And I have no idea which side it's on.
That is dumb.
Look at Broski on Twitter. He's posted tech videos like that.
That's crazy.
So how come there's an inconsistency with the keyboard and the pad?
That's
It's
a good question.
it's the way it's read by the board, right? That's
This
why.
means that the software is not handling it. That means that the keyboard is determining that left and right equals neutral in some instances, and the pad it allows both inputs. The
It must
software needs to
be
just
it
regulate
must be an
this.
input situation where they determine D-pad and left/right stick separately, right? Because on like a keyboard, it's only whatever your keyboard will give you like whatever the input is, right? Like it'll determine, oh, this is D-pad, or oh, this is left stick, or oh, it's whatever it is. Like sticks do the same thing. There's like a setting for it. So it determines like, oh, this is neutral, like whatever this is. So when these two buttons they're the same input when they're put together, it's like that. So pad must have something like that where it's like D-pad and left stick, and they have all those separate things, so that determines it differently.
Somebody in the chat just said left plus right on my keyboard is forward on my keyboard.
Cheating ass Gafro keyboard, if I've ever seen one. That's a Gafro board. As far as the eye can see, it's a Gafro board. Yeah,
Well,
maybe it depends on the
someone's
keyboard
cheating in the
actually.
chat, I guess. But I don't think they tried to regulate it or anything. Sorry, Anton, go ahead.
I just don't understand that there's absolutely zero regulation, and they only deal with it when it's brought to attention. Like I remember, it has to be like 5 years back now, when Full Schedule Stick came out,
Mm-hmm.
and Mr. Wizard approved it, and then they saw what he could do with that input.
He had like an
And-
up. He had up buttons on his keyboard or on
He
his
had
his
up
stick.
up
forward
forward
and up
button.
left, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It was up back and up left, next to his like light punch and light kick.
It's for seismo cancels with Viper, right?
Yeah,
Which was beautiful. If you saw what he did, it was absolutely amazing.
and
Yeah.
it was very obvious the difference in his level of play with and without those buttons.
Yeah, because he was just
So-
used to it at that point.
So I don't get where we're gonna draw the line with what we can do to our sticks, how we can modify it.
I think like
without
generally,
putting
That was
banning
different,
these
though.
sticks.
yeah, I
the
think
logic
generally
of
the
that was
idea
the
is like one button equals one command, right? Whether it's like up, down, left, right. Like up forward is a combination of two things, right?
Yeah,
So I think up forward or up back now it probably wouldn't be allowed if people thought about it. And like, yeah, as long as the button was up or down or left or right, I think it's probably okay.
But what is
What-
up forward on a joystick? Is
up
that a
forward
macro?
is one input. That's the thing.
Well, I'm
It
just
is-
saying, if you could really think about it, when we're hitting up forward on a joystick, it's hitting two separate buttons simultaneously. But to
Yeah.
the human interface, we're hitting one button and getting up forward.
Yeah.
So,
That's I mean, it's a
but
good
yeah.
point. It's
Yeah, I
like well
agree that
because
it
the
should
game
be-
command I assume like the thought process is the four different directional buttons are up, down, left, and right, and then up forward is a combination of up plus forward, right? But I get what you mean about like swinging a joystick. It's just like up forward. It's not like
on
I'm
the
doing
human
up plus
interface
forward.
level, it's still one input on
Yes.
a stick to do up forward. But yeah, so it's kind of weird. Depends on where you draw the line of where the macro level is. But yeah,
Yeah.
I think we need to define what a macro is, and then that should be the line that they draw in the sand.
Yeah.
But I don't want to see hitboxes go away. I completely disagree with Anton on that.
Neither
Yeah.
In the future.
Neither does
And-
Daigo.
Every
when,
single
uh,
Tekken player on the planet just sent death threats to Anton's house when he said
Right.
put it in the arcade first. They were like, no, we live that life.
And when our hands start falling apart, we're gonna thank Lord Daigo or Mahara for showing us the light, so we can all easily move
He
on to
martyred himself,
hitboxes
yeah.
and keep playing. Because I don't know, I don't think joystick is optimal. I can
It's
feel it in my
not, it's
arm
not.
too. Everything about a hitbox seems like the smarter play, except for taking some L's for some time until you get comfortable with it.
Yeah, I feel like the thing about Hitbox is that you'll find learning it easier than you expected. From my experience playing on one, because I played on one for a while, and I felt like transitioning to a Hitbox and learning things, like, it was not very bad. In fact, even if I played on a Hitbox right now, I feel like I'd be at like 85, 90%. And within like a week or two, it would probably be like the same kind of command. So I think like if you're interested in learning a Hitbox, it's great. And the commitment to learning one will take, it's like learning a new character. You know what I mean? Like when you first do it, you're going to lose a lot. You're not going to be comfortable. But once you commit to it, then maybe there's more value in it than like a regular joystick or keyboard. It's just, or like a pad, but it depends on like whether that matters that much to you. You know what I mean? There's like a lot of different reasons that a player or, you know, person will like winning or losing or whatever. And like maybe that's a small part of the equation.
Well, my concern is like the more lenient it is to like use like these hitboxes or allow these hitboxes to be tournament legal. What if somebody creates a more convenient hitbox, like time after time goes on every single tournament? They have inputs that are way easier to do. How are they actually going to regulate that, like logistically? You know what I'm saying? Like
It's true.
to have somebody inspect each and every one of these matches seems like a really tedious job that no one is gonna be able to handle. Not even TOs, because they're
Yeah.
looking at four. When I would TO, I would run like 4 matches at the same time. I can't keep track of everybody's pad or joystick. And
No, absolutely not. And you shouldn't be like you, the bracket runner, shouldn't be in charge of that kind of situation. Like if you had an issue with it too, you would be like, "Hey, let me call over the TO to like come look at and like figure out what the ruling of our tournament is versus whatever." And then you'd even have to test it, right? You'd have to be like, "Okay, well, hit that button on your joystick. What does it do?" You know what I mean? Because like they could just be like, "Oh, it's just an up button," and you're like, you hit it, and it like the whole
It's up
venue
and
loses
kick.
power and they run out in like a smoke screen or something. You're like, what? Like you don't know what the button is gonna do. You have to test them individually to see what each situation
that's
is
a
gonna do.
scary thought. Just
Yeah.
man,
The
being
scale
able
of
to
our
control the
tournaments.
They're too,
The scale
dude.
of our
Combo
tournaments is
Breaker
too
had
large.
like 3,600 attendees or something for players. You can't check 3,600 pads, hitboxes,
No.
stick, like all that stuff. You can't. There's no way.
I feel like in
I also-
other
I also-
competitions. Oh, go ahead.
That some people already with the regular sticks have like up forward inputs and up inputs that they just don't tell anyone.
Dude, people with pads.
Yeah,
Like,
it's-
there was a guy who got exposed. He was a guile player where one of his shoulder buttons was actually up and kick.
Oh yeah,
So
for
he would
flash
jump
kicking,
up
I
and
saw
then-
that.
Yeah.
So it's just you just never know, and then people can easily cheat. Luckily, that's not enough to make them the best yet.
Yeah.
But seeing Daigo use this box was just like, oh shit.
Everybody freaked out. They're like, whoa. He was the right combination of like eyes on the subject and talking about how useful it was. If Daigo just learned hitbox and didn't say like, look at all this cheap stuff I can do. If he just learned the hitbox, I don't think it would have been a big deal. But because he was demonstrating to like this audience, like, look at how useful a hitbox was. He is such a big mouthpiece for everybody, like really sitting down and being like, has science gone too far? Like, is this too much?
It really has.
It was funny too because he was defining a lot of new strategies too. Where if you really break down the amount of time it takes to input certain things, he was like, one of them was for overheads. He's like, well, for me to block an overhead, I need to press one button. Whereas for me to flash kick an overhead if I have charge is almost the same thing as pressing one button. I just press two at the same time. So the reward for blocking overhead is, why don't I just flash kick everything, because it's the exact same amount of time required to input this. And so like the theoretical distance you take this is, fighting games are really designed around flirting with that level of human reaction. I mean, if you could react to everything, the fighting games would be broken. So they really play around how much can you react to and how much can you pay attention to at one time. And that's basically the biggest component, I think, of any fighting game, is that human reaction limit. And so when you start bringing in new input devices, it does sometimes break the design where you're supposed to be able to block the overhead if you're looking for it. Okay, now I can reversal flash kick punish every attempted overhead because it's just the same as blocking it. Now the risk reward for an overhead is totally broken by the design. So there is something to question about that, about how our input devices determine how fighting games are designed, and does it really break the design of the game?
I mean the same kind of thing happens with, like, remember they were saying in like Melty Blood, the designers were like considering Goichi's defense because like the mix-ups in the game, he would just react to all of them. So they were like, when designing mix-ups, we had to think to ourselves, can this like hit Goichi? Is this a strong enough mix-up? So maybe like a hitbox would kind of bring in the same kind of discussion, which is like, if someone's reacting perfectly on this kind of situation, will they be able to block this or not? Is this a real mix-up? Like, should this be fast or slow, or like what should it be?
I mean, would a perfect stick player be able to do what people do on the hitbox? Like,
the travel time on the stick makes it too hard, I think.
Is it way too hard? Because like
it's way less consistent too, because you could still have that error like Brian F mentioned where you might go a little bit too far up. If you wanted to block an overhead and you jump back, that's a really big difference. It could be a game-changing difference.
I've lost plenty of times. I've been hit by plenty of overhead standing when I meant to block. Obviously, I was down back, and then I'm standing, which really what happened is I hit up back, and I got hit grounded. So playing against the Balrog mirror, that happens to me. I try to block last minute overhead, I end up standing, and then they get a full combo.
It's just objectively faster to let go of the button. But at the same time, like the flash kick thing has always been like the fireball into DP. You can always block or you can always DP instead of block. But does the hitbox really make that easier, because it's just one input on the stick as well?
It's not one input. It's two inputs. There's neutral, then there's up. And there's also, when you're trying to do it in an extremely fast motion, you might hit left, or I think you can still flash kick going up, back, or up forward. But it's just the level of accuracy of hovering your finger over two buttons. I'm holding down and I'm hovering over two buttons and I just press that is totally different from holding down back and then having to completely move the stick and then time the button at the same time. It's that tiny bit of, that's like a 1 or 2 frame difference, and that is
it's enough to get
world of difference. It's a world of difference in a fighting game.
Right.
Okay.
Well, either way, I don't even know if Capcom had an official stance on it. They said they were still looking into whether or not they should allow this kind of stick. And then Daigo himself didn't necessarily agree with that or disagree with it. He's still pretty neutral. He says overall, he believes that in order to attract more people into the fighting game community, it's important to ban less tools for people to use. So he's just kind of indifferent. But
that sounds like a Daigo opinion. Daigo's opinions about stuff like that are always like that. He always says like the best fighting games are fighting games where you can do lots of stuff and like things like that. So it doesn't surprise me that his opinion is like, yeah, as long as, you know, unless it's like completely crazy, you shouldn't ban it. You should just allow more people to use stuff.
It's crazy because I wish Daigo got to use his stick at Combo Breaker, because I might have had a chance.
Oh, did you play him in tournament?
Oh my god!
He used regular stick.
Regular stick. I could. He
we need to ban regular stick. Daigo is too strong.
He beat you with a regular stick. They need to have it in the arcades in the U.S. for 2 years first, so that Filipino man can practice on the stick and beat Daigo.
Come on, man. Jeez.
Dude, you versus Daigo, that right there, you want to talk about... So that was like a bad combination of matchup, and he was Shin Daigo.
And I saw him play on the Gafrobox at Taipei, and I was like, really, Daigo?
He's back to hitbox. Dude, he picked up the hitbox and he showed it to like the stream. He was like, look, I'm legal. I got my hitbox. And then he got smoked.
International waters, no one could pursue that.
Yeah, dude, Capcom doesn't have, it's international waters. They don't have the same kind of ability to regulate.
No regulation, none of that.
And he got hit by Yuri and charged heavy kick overhead like every time.
Dude, he sure did.
That's crazy.
What was that?
Dude, he always loses to Urian. I don't know why. Daigo just dies to Urian players, and it's like, all right, well, fair enough. He sees a mirror. He's like,
nope, none of that. He doesn't want anything to do with that. It's all the traveling. It's really getting to his brain. And speaking of, we were all there at Combo Breaker. We all had a great time. I would assume. I saw Brian F. Towards the last bit of it. He had a big smile on his face. I don't know why, but he was happy to go back home because he's a big streamer. I think 50% of us here in the chat are big time streamers. One of the issues I know, Sajam, I know Brian, whenever I would tune into how you would always talk about making up the numbers for subs. Being a streamer and traveling to these events is kind of it's kind of weird balance you guys have to take on whether or not like it's worth it to take the hit on these subs and go to these events and whatnot. What are I guess some of your insights on whether or not it's worth it to travel or be at these events or stay home and get the sub count up?
Right. Well, I want to add some context. I think this came up because it's really the Smash streamers talking about this, which makes more sense because they are swimming in the Twitch Primes.
Yeah.
And I think Twitch Prime is driving economic force behind any of these thoughts to occur in the first place.
Twitch Prime is the GOAT, dude. So
if I'm going to swing Twitch Prime to the chat, which is, I think you guys all know, if you have Twitch Prime, if you have Amazon Prime, you can get free sub per month to an individual streamer, but it expires at the end of the month. So this is the key component, is that it expires.
It doesn't auto renew like a regular subscription on Twitch.
Yes, by design, it doesn't auto renew. So because of that, if you have a large audience of people watching your stream and a huge percent of them are subbing with Twitch Prime because it's just free money, if you don't actively, at the end of their expired month, if you're not there streaming because their attention span is that of a goldfish, if you don't catch them right then when their Twitch Prime renews, they're much more likely to wander off and use it on someone else's channel first before you come back. So
or even not remember they have it and not use it for 2 months, and just like 4 months later they're in another stream and someone says, hey guys, did you use your Twitch Prime? And they're like, oh yeah, boop, and they click the little button again.
So I think the Smash streamers have enough subs to see this dip. I mean, I don't have this problem because I'm not rolling in subs like that. Smash streamers on the order of thousands. So I think Leffen was complaining like, oh, I went to this tournament and I lost 3,000 subs or something. But the thing is, you're going to lose those subs every month regardless. If you're a big streamer, I think the goal is you have your sub count peak at a certain point in the month, and then it dips off because everyone's their Twitch Primes expire. Then you want to get back up, and hopefully you reach that point or get a little bit higher, and you're going to have a constant, hopefully climbing slope that dips every month.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the goal of growing your stream. So it's a good problem to have is kind of my thing. If you're a Smash streamer with thousands of subs, it's a great problem to have. But does it make them consider going to tournaments where if you get fourth place, you get $100 versus I could stay home and make 1,000 a day? Yeah, I think I can
make probably the top eight's money in like 3 days of donations probably.
That was the big issue. I had dinner with Leffen the other day, and I asked him about this because this topic was interesting to me too. And the big problem for Smash events in particular, and he made a tweet about like commentary rates for Smash and like a bunch of other interesting things, was that they don't have any developer support, right? So it's just purely based on the registration for events. And so he was saying like one of the biggest Smash tournaments, like Gommel, he went to, and like third place was like $700. Right, for this huge difficult event that he was at. And like if you think about it in like Twitch numbers, right, that's like X amount of subs. So like the interesting thing about it was that he was saying like, yeah, because there's no pop bonuses, there's no developer support, there's not extra money there. So basically, if you go to the tournament and you don't get third place, you get even less than that. You're gonna make less money as a streamer. And he's somebody, like you said, he has like, I think currently he's almost at 3,000 subs. He's at like 2,800. And he said like when he traveled for like a weekend and then came back, there's like travel day, there's the weekend tournament, which is if it's a tournament that's like from Friday, Saturday, Sunday, come back Monday. He's got to travel all the way back to Europe. So he probably misses 6 or 7 days of streaming in a month. And between all the subs, the ad revenue, between like uploading content to YouTube, because you don't have streams, you can't cut that content, put it on YouTube, you can't make anything additional. The money that you lose is huge. I was even telling him when I went to Combo Breaker and then came back, and then the next weekend I went to Seattle, and then came back. I streamed like the 3 days in between, but because I missed I went in a day early for Combo Breaker to eat hot dogs and film it for the camera, and then model the merch and all that, I lost like almost 300 subs when I was gone at Combo Breaker for my stream. So then like you start doing the arithmetic on like staying home and streaming versus like going and like doing commentary or competing in the event, and it's like, man, there are some situations where it's not quite worth it to do it, especially for someone as big as him. Or like if I had a lot of subs, it was like right after MK, right? It's like April happened, Mortal Kombat numbers were big, and then end of May, right around Combo Breaker, was a month after Mortal Kombat came out when people were dropping their Twitch primes on my channel. So I was like, damn, this is a bad time. But, the hot dogs had to be eaten.
I think it's a bit of a fallacy, though, because you're going to lose subs every month regardless. And
yes.
Right. Yeah.
I think if you're not gone for too long, you'll get them back regardless. It's just a shock. It's the human psych element of it, of seeing that number drop. But with the design of Twitch Primes, you're losing subs every single time they expire. It's up to you to be around to, fish for their attention span. Oh, give me that Twitch Prime. Please come back. So there is some loss, but I think it's a little bit overstated.
Yes.
I think
the other thing that's
you're reinvesting in your brand also by going to tournaments.
Exactly. Especially for him, or even either of us in this circumstance, if he is at a tournament, he's a competitive player. His stream, let's say, has 1,500 viewers or something. That tournament stream where he got third place or whatever has 50,000 people watching it or whatever. You know what I mean? And a lot of those maybe don't regularly watch his stream. And there's a good chance that when you go out to a tournament like that, if you have success, or even if you don't, like you meet your subs or viewers or people that like you in person, you say hi at events, you say what up, they meet you there, you play in tournament, you have a lot of people watching your matches, you're a competitive player who signed on to do that stuff, so you have obligations for your sponsor or your brand or whatever it is too. And then when you come back, you're like, yo, I got third place at the tournament, you stream and everything, everybody's like, yo, I watched the tournament, blah, blah, blah. So you have that kind of investment in that too. It's the same thing for me on commentary. People see me on the mic, I'm commentating at events, and then they come back to the stream after and they're like, oh, I saw you commentate there. I never heard your commentary. It was really great. And then I'm like, you know what else you should do? Hit me with that Twitch Prime, buddy. Hit me with that let's go. And then it's the same kind of thing. Yeah, it's like a big circle.
It's all about the visibility. There, people are going to go into your stream right after and say hi.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't think that there are many FGC streamers that are big enough to where they're losing subs during travel. But it segued on Twitter to like, it was Christy and Li Joe. They were upset that they were losing subs because they weren't playing fighting games. How do you guys feel about that? Like because they're streaming like Apex, do you guys think that that's just a weakness in terms of how like the only thing that we're good for is like playing fighting games, or do you think we need to,
you got to be honest with what people want from you. I mean, we're not personalities, right? So I've dabbled in other games, and of course I expect my numbers to drop like crazy. You have this audience that watches you because, number one, you're probably good at the game that they like. That's the number one reason people watch fighting game streams. It's very rare for a raw personality to carry a fighting game stream. People want to see skilled gameplay. So that's why they watch you. It's just how it is. If you're charismatic enough or entertaining enough to get some sort of carryover to a non-fighting game stream, amazing. You're building your brand and having an even more loyal fan base. But yeah, these viewers ain't loyal. I know. I call my stream out all the time. I'm like, you guys ain't loyal. You're only here because I play Balrog and I punch people and I'm okay at it. If I went off and played another fighting game and sucked at it, or put it on a random game, I know you're not going to be there, and that's fine. That's kind of the contract, the unspoken contract we all agreed on. So I think that they're complaining about nothing, and you can build up your brand and your stream and make connections with your viewers to do that. But that's so much harder and takes so much more time and requires that little extra spark. And I don't think people give enough credit to variety streamers who make it, because that's basically what they're saying. They want to be a variety streamer, and they're not doing it. And that's just very hard to do.
Yeah, one of the
there
biggest
are
ones would be like what Eris, when he would start off with Tekken, Soul Calibur, strictly fighting games, and he's one of the biggest variety streamers on the planet right now, and he's making a killing off of it. Same with Li Joe. I think he plays all the Dark Souls engines games. His transition from fighting games, I think he's doing just fine. I feel like if he wanted to build his own bread, he's entitled to it. He doesn't have to stick to fighting games if he doesn't want to, because it's at the end of the day, it's his show.
But Joe was saying that he just didn't stream. LA Joe had over 1,000 subs at one point, and he could do it with games. LA Joe's problem was that he was trying to do real life stuff or didn't want to put the time into streaming. I think that's totally different than the Chris T complaint, where he barely streams as it is. Like I don't think Chris T's put in any work to warrant even thinking about this. He's relatively a baby streamer. Like he hasn't put in thousands of hours like other people have. I think Li Joe just didn't have the heart to do it, which it's not for everybody. You have to spend hours doing it.
Joe I think was at that point where when you have that many subs, if he decided to cut back on work or there's something else in his life, he could have pushed for more, I think. But Joe is also somebody who's had opportunities like that and been no, to me my work is more important. I like my work, he likes what he does. His job is awesome. He's I'm going to stick to that. So that's I think Joe's case. And I think you're right about Chris's case, which is if he grinded the stream game hard for a long time and then was going to tournaments and traveling and doing well and stuff and doing both of those things, he could build a big enough audience that he could transfer over or something, right? But it takes a lot of time. For me, for instance, what you brought up about Street Fighter streams or competitive streams is interesting because for me, I'm a commentator, so people come to my stream to hear me talk no matter what it's about. So it's a little different for me than when I turn on the stream and I'm streaming Street Fighter and I have X amount of viewers. When I cut over to another game, the amount I maintain is different than I think maybe a competitive player would, depending on their personality or the kind of interactions they have with their chat. I know what you mean because it's normal to have a drop off when you go from whatever you're known for to another category on Twitch. It's extremely normal. But also at the same time, there are strategies. If either of them wanted to do it, the main thing that most people do is stream whatever you're known for. If you're a Street Fighter streamer, play Street Fighter for, you stream for, let's say, 6 hours. Play Street Fighter for 4 hours. Then the last 2 hours, you switch to another game and you try that and you play that and, your viewership, but let's say you have 500 viewers, right? You have 500 viewers. Your viewership will slowly go down when you play another game, but you at least get those eyes on that, channel. And not only that, but on that directory, let's say you're playing, I don't know, Dark Souls, and someone clicks on Dark Souls, they're like, wow, this guy has 500 viewers playing Dark Souls. Let me check it out. They don't know that it's carried over from you playing Street Fighter earlier or anything. So they click your stream as a fresh face and they just get to check you out playing Dark Souls or whatever other game you want to do. So that's what I had experience with when I play certain other games. The viewership for me is high in other categories if it's a category like that, I think. And it just depends for me on what I'm interested in or what people know me for. But for me, it's a little different. So I don't know. I mean, even right now, we have a podcast happening on my channel on Twitch that people are tuned into for the same kind of reason, right? Oh, let me click on this podcast on the Street Fighter thing and see what's going on. So
I see.
It's not easy to do. It takes you have to think about that issue. Those two would have to think about that issue and come up with strategies to get around it or build it or stop it. It's not something that you could just be why won't all these Street Fighter guys watch me play Koahime? You know what I mean? It's you have to work. You got to work on it. That's all there is to it.
Oh boy. Yeah, I mean, being able to balance those kind of responsibilities, or at least those quote unquote obligations that fighting game players have. I know, Chris Terrian definitely not putting in any of those hours in is pretty evident, but you have
just not enough hours in. He streams, just not enough.
I haven't seen him stream in a very, very long time, actually.
He started too recently.
He streams daily.
Yeah, he does now.
He started too recently. Yeah. But yeah, it just takes so much time, even for someone who is known in the FGC and known as a very strong competitive player. I think I don't know. I feel like some people expect it to immediately take off just because they've done well in tournament. But it depends.
Dude, even Eris streamed for years. He was telling me, he's like, dude, I streamed for years and years and years and years with nothing. And then he had that one boost, right? It was when he was playing MK a lot, and then he had one big boost, and he streamed 12 hours a day, 6 days. He was just streaming every day of the week as long as he could, because he was this is my chance to take all this viewership and run with it. And that's the kind of moments you need to build on as a streamer, right? You go from my average viewership is this, then you get a big bump, and you have to keep streaming and build to here until your average viewership is it went from 300 to 500, 500 to 700, 700 with that. Like, you have to keep doing that. And that sometimes takes years. It's not, like, unusual for it to take a long time.
All right, you answered my question.
I hated Eris' stream when I first watched it, so there's also that.
Yeah. You came around.
I was like, this guy's a moron. I turned
it's for a certain audience for sure.
I love it.
I guess it's more about building personality or being able to showcase your personality in this platform that you have, right? And then maintaining subs is having the loyalty. And I understand why Twitch Prime does like the cancellation, because Amazon would be losing a lot of money if it was just continuous, right?
Hell yeah. So, they definitely do not want Twitch Prime to auto-renew.
Yeah,
hell no.
We don't want that.
And it encourages streamers to actively participate because nothing is guaranteed. If you're not there to pick them up next month, goodbye money.
Yep. You have to get up. That's why when you're looking at the stream right now, there's a little notification in the top right that tells you if your Twitch Prime is ready to be dropped on twitch.tv/Sajam to enjoy this content and other content Monday through Friday starting at 12:30 Pacific time. In case you guys are curious.
If you click on my name in chat, same thing applies.
He said hi.
The same thing applies.
I will show the banana emote. I think the banana emote is well worth your free Twitch Prime.
That's what, the banana emote and the
whop. Like,
I'm definitely there for the whop.
Please, it's the banana.
That's what I'm saying. Dude, I'm telling you, the banana's slightly peeled.
That's not right, man.
It's powerful.
I do like the hot dog. I think that was a good idea.
Dude, I got plenty of subs throughout this stream already. The Twitch Prime is the goodness. Thanks, everybody.
As soon as Brian talked about Twitch Prime,
immediate
4 or 5 pop up. I was like, what a call.
Yeah.
I like that. No clean segues here. I know we did have a pretty controversial tweet moving on, coming from a well-known DBFZ player, Tatsu the Wicked. I know Brian F. actually had a good amount of words to say with this tweet. I don't know if we could pop it up, but for the most part, I think I'm going to just copy it and paste it over to the chat to kind of give you guys a look-see of what we were talking about. The tweet essentially says, how many sponsored players do you see genuinely providing something of worth to the community, to the game, and to the followers who support them? Many are only obsessed with fame, clout, and self-interest. They show no love, no heart, yet we put these false idols on a pedestal.
I'm trying to think if I can pull this up in the middle. You guys keep talking.
Right. That's actually not the original one, though. That was the follow-up to explain the joke.
I'm going to go ahead and try to find the original one, actually.
Yeah,
I do want to bring up that Tatsu, being like, if you were in SoCal 10 years ago, he was actually one of the first sponsored players.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't understand where this tweet is coming from and where he can claim that people that are sponsored are only obsessed with flame, cloud, and self-interest, and that they show no love and no heart. Clearly, they work hard and care enough to travel around and hope for these sponsorships.
Well, that's like an interesting question, too, is like, what is the responsibility of a top player? Like, what is a top player supposed to do if you get sponsored? Do you have an obligation to talk about certain things, to promote things, to send people around this, and that? What's great is that Tatsu replied, someone was like, well, you were a sponsored player, bro. Like, what did you do when you were a sponsored player? He's like, absolutely nothing. I didn't do diddly squat. So, like, at least there's enough, recognition there that he's like, I was a sponsored player and I didn't do enough with it. So I guess, like, that's how it works.
Yeah, I copied and pasted the link to the original joke in the chat, and I think it blew up just because of how sour he sounded.
Yeah.
Nothing makes me cackle more than seeing a sponsored player lose in tournament to a random nobody while wearing a stupid-looking sponsored jersey. How's the feet taste, my dude? You do this for a living, huh? And he posted that smug-looking Zamasu picture. And I think the main thing that it's just kicking someone while they're down. It's just, I think Tatsu is this type of personality that kind of gets off on that sort of humor of just kicking people while they're down. But I made the counter tweet where I just rephrased it with "Go Tanks" giving the peace sign, where it's like, nothing makes me happier than seeing an up and coming player beat an established pro. Right? It's just a frame of reference.
Yeah.
Some people were arguing like, why is everyone mad about rooting for the underdog? I'm like, this isn't rooting for the underdog. This is beating up somebody when they're down. Like, if you're a top player and you lose to someone you're not supposed to, it doesn't feel good. It's like a failure on their part, and they need to overcome that. So you can at the same time root for the underdog while not lamenting it, just living up that the fact that someone has failed. So I just think it's just a tone thing, and just how he wrote it out.
What's interesting to me too is, like, you talk about like, oh yeah, sponsored players losing. All right, well, the FGC is a weird place when it comes to sponsored players or players on teams and stuff. JDCR is not a sponsored player. Are you cackling when he wins Electric Clash as an unsponsored, not wearing a jersey player? You're like, JDCR non-sponsored. Like, no, of course not. Like, not every top player is sponsored or with a team or an org or anything like that, right?
And not all sponsors mean anything. So
exactly.
There's also that.
Yeah, like you can put any t-shirt or jersey on if you want to and call it a sponsor. You know what I mean? Like it's just like that, you know? It's not a big deal. And the second thing is, even the players who are sponsored or with teams and stuff, how many of them are full-time players? Like how many of them don't work a day job and can compete full-time and like focus all their time and energy? And like there are players who are sponsored, they have their flight and hotel traveled, but maybe you're a college student and you play, you know, more than they do, right? You just have more time and effort. So when you beat them, it's like, well, yeah, I mean, you're an awesome player. You play the game a lot. You're interested in it. You travel and compete. Having a jersey or a team doesn't automatically make you a better player or a better person or anything like. It's just like you're on a team, right? Like
that's why I think making the joke is also such in poor taste, because there's not that level of division. I think in the FGC, it's just anyone can compete. So when someone makes that upset, it's great to see. But it's not like some guys who. Yeah, like you said, they're not League of Legends, they're not Dota. It's not people who are living this life full time. It's really just other people who come from very similar backgrounds for the most part, who just happen to have been doing it for a little bit longer than the guy who made the upset.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's such a huge division between the sponsored player and the up and coming guy. It's a lot more squished, so it seems in much more poor taste to be laughing at the guy for losing rather than celebrating the guy who's putting in the work to reach that next level.
It was 100% true that it's all about the tone, because I think
the tone is mean.
Happy. Yeah, everyone's happy to see the underdog win, but like cackling is just it
cracks me up.
It's just a bad word to use in terms of this. It's just like what?
That's Tatsu, dude. I feel like that is as normal for Tatsu as it gets. He is retweeting anime titties and cackling. You know, that's just how he is as a fellow.
Killing esports the whole time.
Yeah.
Then the follow-up tweet where he tried to spin this off to be something about what's a responsibility and having something out for sponsored players seems very misguided and not focused enough. It sounds like he's obviously talking about a few select people. So putting the label as sponsored players, I think, is just he's conflating his message and he's not being focused enough. I guess he feels like some people in the community are in a position of power where they could do positive things to, you know, influence the community, but they don't. I think that's what he's getting at. But it's hard to tell.
I mean,
they do influence the community. It's just that they're there to play and showcase high level gameplay, and then every sponsored player has a fan, and not one fan is enough for you to be worth sponsoring. It's just depending on how good of a person you are, how good you are at networking, and how good you are at the game, right? Well, so it's about earning your keep, and you earned it by somehow getting your sponsorship.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is, like, it also depends on like what do you have to do as a sponsored player? Like in fighting games in particular, it's an open bracket tournament. Anybody is allowed to enter. Like, what is your obligation as a sponsored player to do for the community? Like, are you supposed to make content? Are you supposed to send people places? Are you supposed to do meetups? Or is your job to, like, go, play, compete, and keep your sponsor happy? You know, like, what is your obligation? I mean, that's, like, up to interpretation, I think.
Well, the contract. What's in your contract?
That's true.
That's your obligation. Now, everything you do beyond that is a sense of personal calling.
Yeah.
And I'm sure most sponsored players' contracts are go to this tournament and do the best you can to place, and then there's all the unspoken things where they kind of expect you to do to make their sponsorship of you valuable besides just placing well. But I mean, it's just, yeah, you want people to do good things for the community, but it's actually not their responsibility once sponsored. I think when you say you have to do this, that's when people get defensive, like, I don't have to do a damn thing you tell me, because that's how I am.
Yeah,
like,
me too.
I like making content and doing things for the community, but if you tell me it's my responsibility to do that, I'm going to say, you know, I don't know, just don't tell me what to do. I'll do it without you telling me.
That's
but
how
it's no one's real responsibility to do it.
Dude, I feel the same way. Like there's like people who are like, Sajam, why didn't you talk about this important burning community point that was supposed to happen? I didn't see you tweet about it at all. It's your job as a voice of the community. And it's like, no, my job is to study the games I commentate, show up to events, be there on time, be well rested, deliver good commentary. Like beyond that, that's what I do for a living. You know what I mean? It's like, that's what I'm supposed to do. And yes, Jeremy, your mic has been muted. It's not that we haven't been...
That's crazy because
Yep.
I've been saying shit the whole time.
Yeah.
Well,
Wait, were you
you're
really
now.
muted? Don't tell me you're actually muted.
I
He was muted?
No, it wasn't my mic though. It just went out. I guess I don't know what happened. I unplugged it and plugged it back in when I found out.
You know, as a podcast host, Jeremy, it's your responsibility to be here 30 minutes beforehand, like I said, so we could test these
my
things.
God.
It's your responsibility.
I was panicking because I was trying to fix my internet issue. But anyways, I don't know you. Shit. No, I'm just kidding.
Shit.
Was this tweet at the same time that one Smash coach / player was like, I don't want to play you guys in casuals because
This
I
was
only want to get
after.
better with the best. Was it after?
The
after
Smash
that?
tweet was first, which
Yeah.
was really funny.
That's a great
Yeah, so
tweet.
around that same time, that coach essentially was just like, yeah, we don't owe you shit. I don't have to do anything for you guys because I've put in the work. I've paid my dues. I only want to play the best of the best because you guys are only going to drag me down.
Wasn't it like you have to pay me to play me in casuals?
Yes, it was.
Incredible.
He's free to do that. Is the thing. But
He can
we're
if he'd
also
like.
Free to think he's an asshole. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
That is the craziest shit I've ever heard. You want me to pay you to play you in casuals? It's not your tournament,
only
bro. There's the
only
TO.
drag you
It's
down,
2 out of
bro.
3 or get up. I don't care if you got money, bitch. Get out the way. It's TN. Get out of the way if you don't want to die. Like, that's all there is to it. It's 2 out of 3, bitch. No, you don't own this station. It's the TO station. Get the fuck up. No one cares who you are.
Do you guys remember that one tweet way back when where it was like, if it's a money match, we get to tell you to get off your station?
Absolutely. I
Dude,
do
that
remember
was
that.
yeah. I thought that was wild. You
It's
gotta
not-
wait for your damn turn.
If it's your own casual station in the BYOC, there's a little room there. If it's the tournament station, if Gaming Generations loaded up a truck, took that shit to the Midwest and brought that station and put it in the venue, you can go fuck yourself. Get off the station or I'm sitting down with someone to play. And no, it's not going to cost me any
that
money.
still happens. There's still a whole bunch of like unspoken rules and lack of enforcement with waiting for casuals.
Yep.
Like I got pretty heated at final round. I remember I was waiting to play on one of the setups, and this was on Sunday too. So I was trying to warm up for top 8, and I was just waiting in line with everybody else. And then some guy, I saw him playing on the setup on the opposite side. There's only like 4 setups now on Sunday, right? So big lines. And I go to play next, and I see the guy sit down in front of me, and he's playing. And I'm like, wait, weren't you just playing on the other setup? And they say, yeah, but I was waiting in line here too. And I was like, okay, you're free to do that, but you're also a fucking asshole, and everybody here hates you. I hope you know that. Like, what?
You can't wait on
How do you
multiple
have no
set like
self-awareness at all?
That is just that's not cool. And I was about to get in a fight with this dude. I was like, are you that much of a dick? And like, you want everyone to hate you this much? Like, we all know what you're doing.
Yeah.
So
he's
stuff like this happens all the
Dude,
time.
people have done that in the arcades forever. When they would wait for the Marvel 2 cap and they would play 3S instead while they're just eyeing the next arcade. And as soon as it was over, they stopped playing 3S and just dipped out to play Marvel. I was like, what the hell, man?
that
They
shit
do
for a casual
That's
station.
wild.
Where you are standing is where you're lined up, and if you try to make
Correct.
up some funny ass rules and shit, it's like, all right, well, look, if you can stand in both places at the same time, I'll let you wait in both. I'd like to see you fucking try. Stretch Armstrong ass motherfucker. I'm waiting here for casuals, and if you don't like it, you can go fuck yourself too. Go tell the TO that you're waiting in line for 3 different casual setups at the same time, and people have to pay money to play you and some shit like that. And if they don't laugh your ass out of the building, then I'll just never come back to this TO's tournament. It's that simple.
Damn.
It's
just
so
crazy
it's
to
like
me.
you're not fucking special. Like, if it's your own setup somewhere in your own hotel room, it's BYOC. Cool, man. Otherwise, you're an idiot, and you're not as important as you think you are, and that shit's just facts.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I just don't understand how people can be so, like, it's like they're driving when they're trying to wait for a casual station in line. Like,
They're
it's
cutting
best two
people
out
off.
of 3. They're cutting people off, and it's like best 2 out of 3.
Signal. Not even a signal.
No signal.
And they're like, "Oh, let me have one more." I'm like, "No!" And then I'm the dick for telling you to get off after you lost 2 out of 3 just because you're salty. You need to get in the back of the line.
Just stand in the
I-
back of the line.
And let me
give
tell you,
some
you're not
people
gonna
the
get to play with
courtesy
same
one.
person. I don't know. It depends on the person.
If there's a
It's like-
long line, you can't give them the courtesy one. You got to get the fuck off the station. If there's like one person in line, if it's just you in line, it's up to you to give them the courtesy one. That's up to you.
You give them the courtesy one, but then you give them shit
Yeah.
the whole time.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
they get bodied anyways. You
That's
make
exactly
them
it. It's like you,
Yeah,
made
you gotta
it
talk
to
shit the whole
salty
time.
run back. It's like you
Yeah.
didn't even try on that one. See,
They
the,
never
we,
win
we
the
all sat
courtesy
here and
one.
watched you get bodied again.
I
Thanks
think-
a lot.
the strategy is to have Steve and Brian turn around so that their back is facing the crowd, right, when they're waiting at stations, 2 different stations, so that they don't know who's who.
We'll have you and Samurai on the other setup, and me and
Exactly.
Brian on one, and we'll double weight for both setups at the same time.
That's the
Okay.
strategy.
Oh my God.
That's exactly the strategy. So,
That's a good
And
ass
it'll
plan.
work
Figured it
too.
out.
Is the sad part. Okay.
Yeah.
it definitely happens every single tournament. Like, you know, it's just somebody mistakes one for the other all the time. I don't know about you guys up there, but wait, where are you guys on the stream?
Down
Brian
below.
and Steve. Down
Oh,
below. Yeah.
Diagonal.
Left and down.
There it is. Yeah, I don't know where the hell it's at. But so it kind of brings us to our next point when it comes to possibly putting like VIP areas in tournaments. Do you think that is a big yikes to you guys? Because I mean, there are instances where you guys need to warm up. It's pivotal. Like, you need to get ready for a top 8 event or even like top 16. Do you think there should be a specific reservation for those players in that realm to be secluded away from the crowd or even play without like the crowd knowing or whatnot?
I think
I
there's some.
say-
You
Go
brought up like an interesting sub point of what I was going to say. So I think okay, let's say top 8 for Sunday is settled. If the TO wants to have like an area where top 8 players can bring someone in and warm up or something, that's very different than like the kind of VIP area that I think most people are thinking of, which is certain VIP players who are either top players or top players' friends or homies with the TO can come backstage and play on these setups with like headsets. There's like 15 casual stations back here with headsets, and anybody, you know, top players can come back here and play. And then out in the ballroom, there's, you know, 4 casual stations for the rest of you fucking dweebs. I don't care about you.
So
That's
they
a
don't
very
have to practice
different
against any
idea
of the
for a
top
VIP
guys.
area.
Yeah, it's like the West Coast Warzone casuals area. Yeah, they did have a VIP area for the top 8 players only to play, right? Like there's 2 setups in the back where they can bring in a friend to play them over and over again.
Yeah.
But they still had 12 setups on the ground floor where everyone else can play each other. I think that's the correct way to do a VIP area. But when people say VIP area, they think like, oh, the after party, or like the room for the after party already being occupied by only top players.
Yeah.
Or like they charge $200 just so you can meet the top players.
You got to
in
take
that
a
VIP
limo
area.
backstage. I understand.
And that does happen at Canada Cup. They do have like the extra limo to the VIP room after.
I was not in a
So-
limo. I had to take an Uber just like everybody. We took an XL. We had 5 people.
Oh,
Took
I
an
took that
Uber like a
limo. It was
hardworking
awful.
man.
It was one of the most awkward experiences I've ever had. I sat in that limo with 12 other strangers, and Pierre Balrog was in there, and that was about the only person I recognized. And there was no alcohol, no music, and we just sat there 2 feet in front of each other, face to face, just waiting for the limo
Dang,
to drive
knees
off.
bumping?
I wish
That's
I took an
awkward.
Uber.
Dang, you should have taken an Uber with me, dude.
$5. It was
Damn.
terrible.
That sucks. No alcohol, no music. You guys are just sitting. It's like this podcast. We're all just sitting here talking to each other like, hey, you ready to go to
At least I
Canada
know
Cup
where
after
you are.
party?
It was just complete strangers and no social lubricant. It was terrible.
That's
no
bad.
social lube.
I Ubered with the homies, and then we had a great time. We showed up, and we were
sounds way
like,
better.
all right.
Let's go.
I've never heard of no social lubricant before. That is great.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
using
rough.
that. I'm definitely stealing that. Yeah, it is.
I mean, if
rough
you're getting
without
into a limo with strangers, there better be at least a few bottles popping.
Yeah, it's true. And some music. So you don't actually, people can talk to you, and you'd be like, yeah. And then you're like, I have no idea what the
Nice.
fuck that guy said. I have no clue. It's too loud in here.
I don't know, man. I don't think Lapchi was able to put all that dough out for all that kind of entertainment.
Or that dough for Spooky. Spooky
That's what
tweeted him
I
and was
say. He
like,
couldn't even get Spooky down. You know, like that was actually pretty wild. I don't know if you guys saw this recently, but Spooky took to the internet streets with a Glock in his hand and straight up pointed it at Lapchi after he tweeted it. He's like, "Yo, man, when are you gonna pay me?"
he's like, sup, guys? This is Spooky. Pay me, bitch. And he's firing
that's-
sideways.
He gave him the classic, "What's up, guys? I'm overdue." And then straight up fired away.
Sup, guys?
What's up, guys? And then he's like, "Yo, man, when are you gonna pay me for the event?" Lapchi was like, "DM me, I got you." I don't even know if that got sorted out or not. That was really wild for him.
That shit is so sick. I bet you he paid the limo service, though.
Oh, it said it was. Curly says, "Yo, Mr. VIP, how about paying my invoice?"
That's a
That
good
is
ass way to do
He
it.
was saying what's wrong with having a VIP area. He was endorsing the idea at the time.
I mean, Canada Cup is a very VIP area kind of a tournament. You know what I'm saying? Like it's definitely along the lines of like, yeah, if you don't have a VIP area here, it's not Canada Cup. All the top players get to warm up back here. You plebs who are in the exact same bracket, paid the exact same registration fee, came out here to play in the exact same open bracket tournament. You're not as important as the rest of these competitors.
And possibly placed higher than,
Cackling as you defeat one of these ugly looking
Right.
esports jerseys players.
VIP treatment seems to outlast placing in the FGC for a lot of modern titles. So
Sure
I don't know.
does.
I'm pretty sure most of those open bracket people also placed higher than people in VIP areas.
I'm sure they did. And I'm sure, they didn't have to worry about going backstage to warm up and play games and everything like that. They were standing amongst everybody else where some asshole was in 2 lines at once on the casual station and he couldn't play a game.
I just don't understand how, or I don't know if we're actually getting to the point where VIP is becoming more and more of a thing. Because I feel like even in the fighting game community, it's becoming it's still very close because open bracket still fights, the top players. But I feel like the gap is getting bigger between the top players and the casual players like Smash.
I don't think so. I think in Smash it's very evident. I don't think so. See at all. Well, no, I don't really feel that personally. But I don't know. I'm biased. I compete in the tour all the time now. But I went to tournaments for 5 years and no one knew who I was, and I don't know. I still was around top players the whole time and got casuals with them. So I don't feel like that much has changed. People still play whoever, but I definitely think in the Smash community, they just have way more fans and they're just way more famous, and the level of worship is insane. So that's usually where you hear the need for VIP areas, because they just literally want to sit away from people. I don't think they're even arguing about like places to warm up or play. They just want a room to sit alone.
Did you see the Leffen tweet where he like posted a sign that said like, I'm warming up, please don't bother me, like I'm like trying to warm up for tournament, and he said within 15 minutes like 5 people came up and asked for like pictures or autographs and stuff, and I was like, damn,
that is so stupid.
There's a sign, it's like right above the setup, it says like, I'm warming up, please give me some space. I was like, damn, well, fair enough. And also Smash has the whole what happened thing is big because Smash was having issues where like people would lose on the stage. They'd lose in top 8 on the stage, walk up, and fans would run up and be like, damn, you did really great, you almost won, hey, can I get a picture? Like right after the top 8 on the stage. It's like, bruh.
Was that before or after the mixer blew up on him? Did you guys hear about that?
Oh no.
So I think one of you guys clipped it during pools. I think it was like probably top 8 during a Smash event. Somebody fell over the mixer and the music just blared throughout the ballroom.
I posted that I posted that clip. That clip is super funny. I don't think a lot of people might have seen it, but somebody backstage fell on the mixer that's controlling the stream, and all the knobs got pushed to 11.
Oh no.
So all the audio in the venue just went and like exploded. That clip is so funny.
Yeah. The 2 Smash players definitely came to a halt. They're just like, what?
Yeah, in the middle of their tournament stage match, they both like flinched from the noise, and they're like, what? Should we keep playing? Like, what the fuck just happened?
It was pretty hilarious.
It was sick.
That's a good way to save your teammate, though. If they're
apparently like blew out the speakers and shit. Like they had like a bunch of like audio repercussions.
Yeah, make it intentional.
Jesus.
Oh Jesus, that's
Crab got thrown at Hungry Box. That also happened.
Oh, the crab.
Yeah,
dude, who throws a crab?
Honestly,
it's a Maryland thing, right? Weren't they in Maryland?
What does it have to do with? Oh, I mean, it makes sense.
They were eating them. I'm pretty sure it was like a boiled crab or.
Yeah, it was. I think it was boiled. I think you're correct.
So it's more like a food item.
Yeah, that's messed up.
You're
you can't
supposed to eat it, not throw it.
Yeah,
brother.
You know, it's like
crab.
People make a lot of these absurd like statements about the Smash community. Like, do you remember at CEO like they said that like some Smash player like took a dump in the pool?
I do remember that allegation.
Got scared, and I was like, the allegation doesn't seem true, but like they just keep doing more and more, like throwing the crab. I'm just like
you're blaming that, you're retroactively giving them the blame for it. You're like, it must be true. Some motherfucker threw a crab.
They must have pooped in the pool. They threw the crab.
Dude,
Jesus.
Someone did that over at what, CEO during one of the.
Yeah, no, that
was CEO.
It was CEO. Okay, sorry, I might have.
Well, on the topic of one thing that I thought was interesting that Brian brings up, that's a good point, is like the level of fandom and like amount of fans they have. Dude, if you look at the Smash communities, like follower count and like sub count, we talked about that earlier, the amount of fans they have is so high. I think I've noticed recently in fighting games, the number of people who are like fans and not just like, they're not as serious as competitors, they just like go to events to just spectate, hang out, is gone way up from when I remember first being interested in fighting games. But I feel like Smash is like, it's humongous, the level of like fandom that they have. It's so high.
Right. That's why I feel like you hear those complaints from them. So there might almost be a need at some point. Just the way FGC tournaments are structured, they're so crowded.
Yeah.
And it's not even just like, so even Punk tweeted about how like that guy was harassing him during top 8.
Yep.
And flicking
Yeah,
him off.
flipping him off.
It's not just top.
They
players
said that
are-
guy. I'm starting to think it was you after I saw those tweets and everything. Brian F was in the
okay,
front
I'm
row
gonna say-
flipping on
I'm
Punk.
gonna say it was Logan.
Punk
It was Logan
fanboy.
the whole time. It was Logan.
Logan would
It
have
must
done
have been
that.
Logan. That actually makes the most sense.
Yeah,
Maybe
He had his,
Logan.
that's why he had.
He
his
had the hood
hoodie.
up?
He was definitely giving the as the
You'd have to be a
bad guy.
moron to bet against Punk as well. So
Yeah.
I don't appreciate being called that dumb live on stream because that man is winning everything on the planet.
Oh, yeah.
But anyways, my point was tournaments are crowded. So regardless if you're a top player or just an average Joe, when you're playing in pools, when you're playing anywhere, you're bumping elbows with people. I think there could be something done. Don't invest in VIP areas, but invest in creating space for all the competitors to play. I think that there should be more room sometimes in pools, some kind of way to prevent crowds from building up right around pool stations because people are literally touching you while you're playing, just
Yeah.
they're bumping into you, and it's just very crowded. And
The worst.
I think that's a big problem.
Yeah,
There was
people would unplug their sticks and like bump their butts right in front of you and just take up so much space. And there'd be people like scavenging around the setups. Like as soon as it's open, they'll go over you during your tournament match to get over to that station.
Yeah.
And play.
there was like definitely an Evo I remember playing in that like the top, I think it was like the semis or whatever for KI was not on stream, or there was like a lot of matches off stream because things were running behind. And I remember playing like a top 32 match where like there was all these people right behind me. You could feel that as you're like sitting there playing the tournament match, you could feel everybody behind you. And it like reminds me of like, anytime there's off stream tops like semis matches, top 16 matches, there's like 9 people back there with the phones recording and shit. It's like there's all these people pressed up against you. So if you're in like a tournament match and you want to back up or something, or you want to like move around, like you have no space. You have to sit there and play on your Gafrobox, and like you have no room to move around. Like you're just trapped there, and it's just how it is for the pools areas.
Mm-hmm. And so I think
the area has always been so terrible. Like in Final Round 2016, they didn't expect 1,000 people to enter Street Fighter 5.
No.
So they took the tables and like shoved them to the wall. But they
Yeah.
still had like 2 stations this way. So you had to like walk either like, there's 2 stations back to back. So there's one person sitting here, one person sitting here, like butt to butt.
Yeah.
So you have to walk through them to get to the inner station.
Jesus.
But they don't understand like the entrance and fighting game events fluctuate too much to like get a bigger venue, because that's what Final Round did, and then they went down like 700 entrants, and then it's hard. It makes it harder to pay for, so you don't really know if you can upsize the event. So we don't know what we can do.
Your floor planning and your expectation, like I don't know how many other TOs think to themselves, we're going to have X amount of viewership based on growth, like our models say this, and that. So, we need to have a floor plan that accommodates X amount of people. I feel like Combo Breaker and maybe like Evo or CEO are like the only events that would have to think about that,
They did an excellent job doing that, by the way.
Yeah. CB had like, the way their casual or the way their stations are, the pods and everything are much more reasonable to be spread out than instead of like the normal table, everybody's side by side usually. There's like a few table setups like that. Actually, like Street Fighter had one, but the middle setups are a little easier to weave in and out of.
I feel like they also did that with even the top 8 or top 16 areas, where on the final day they had setups on the side right next to the stage for those guys to warm up. So I think they divvied it up really well with the amount of games they had over at Combo Breaker. They had every fighting
23.
game under the sun, and I'm not even being like sarcastic. They had every single game at that venue and the other venues next door in the entirety of the hotel, even in like the pool area.
Yeah.
They had bring your own casual setups. They had like a Bishibashi Champ tournament, which was fucking wild. I don't know if you know what that game is, but the fact that they had that game there at Combo Breaker was mind blowing.
Yeah, CB was a tight ass event, dude. It's always fun. I ate so many hot dogs, like 50 hot dogs, 100 hot dogs or something. It was crazy.
The fact that he somehow puts 100, like I'm obviously exaggerating, 100 games in the tournament.
Yeah.
And cares about them equally and gives them stream time.
It was close.
It's really cool, and I understand it's really hard to do, but it was just really cool, and it's very obvious that he's not about the VIP area.
Yeah. I mean,
there are VIP areas.
Yes. There's one VIP area at Combo Breaker, actually, which was the Red Bull room.
Right.
That was,
so Red Bull somehow rinsed that out.
Yeah.
So there's definitely VIP areas at Combo Breaker. But the thing is, it's also one of the events where I think it's the least needed because there's so many casual setups that it's not that big of a deal.
I agree.
It was right next to the staff room, and every time I looked in the Red Bull room, there was like less than 5 people in there. It was like maybe the most empty room I saw all weekend long, I feel like. I don't know why.
Sunday, it filled up because they got rid of casual setups around like 6 p.m. for the top 8s.
So that's where you were, huh? The VIP room, Brian F. I see where you were.
Somehow I stumbled into it. I tripped all the way up the stairs and
upwards, yeah.
You know,
I tripped up the stairs.
VIP room. I was invited to play there. I was like, it can't be VIP if I'm invited.
Oh no, I definitely wasn't supposed to be there. I'm pretty sure they got all in there.
Yeah, it was right next to the staff room. So every time I would like pop my head on over to like look, you know, and I was like, oh, I see. All right.
I felt very awkward being there just as a commentator. I was like, I don't think I belong here. I took a step in, got a few snacks, and I peaced out.
I didn't even take a step. Well, because the staff room for like everybody has water and like snacks. So that's what I would go up there for. I'd go up and grab like a water, and then I'd go down and commentate. So yeah, that's the life.
Yeah, but overall, I thought it was a really, really fun event. We're all there.
Are we talking Combo Breaker now? Is that the plan?
Yeah, I think this is a good way to get into Combo Breaker.
Yeah, one of the things I did want to talk about was how long it took MK11 to finish. That took forever. I finished a full deep dish pizza in 3 matches.
That sounds right.
That's long. That's a really long time. That was the only thing I thought stood out for Combo Breaker. I think the rest of the event was really great, but damn, MK took forever.
Why didn't it take forever, though?
I feel like MK was cursed because it had to go after Tekken, and I feel like any game that had to go after Tekken was gonna seem like a drag, no matter what it was, because that Tekken tournament and that room
was insane.
I've never felt like that was like the best. It was like the best feeling ever. That room was crazy. So even if you had the sickest tournament of all time after that, it's gonna be like, this shit's taking forever.
Do you really think that wasn't the case? Like, you didn't think that 3 out of 5 was
the top 8 was about long? How long do you think the top 8 was?
I want to say like, shoot, I don't even know how much to put on there. Like 2 hours plus.
I just think visually Tekken 7 is a better paced game.
Definitely.
So I don't play either of those games, so I just watch them casually. And so Tekken, just the pacing is better to watch as a totally. I don't know the mechanics of those games. I barely understand what's going on. Tekken, no, I don't know what's going on. Yeah. So as a casual fan of those games, I feel like Tekken goes by faster.
I think it's the most spectator friendly game in fighting games. Probably it's like the game that. The amount of people I walk up to and like they're watching Tekken and I'm like, oh yeah, you like Tekken? Like, who do you play? And they're like, I don't play at all. I just watch it. Like, Tekken is like one of the games that everybody watches at almost every event because they're just like, I don't know shit about this game, but it's tight. Everybody gets hit. Blue stuff, red stuff. Like, this game's crazy. Right. So yeah, it has like the visual. Story. Yeah, the presentation of that game. S class. It's like so good.
And the fact that Anakin was going up against, you know, our Korean overlords and almost it was a round away from closing it out before it all fell apart. You know, it had all tournaments set.
Yep.
Whereas like Street Fighter was kind of like a blowout, and Mortal Kombat was interesting. It was cool seeing Scar win, but I don't know. Was that as dramatic?
I feel like the storylines for MK11. And the matches were not as good as they probably should have been, considering like the most exciting match was like maybe Sonic beating up Tweety, like him getting the revenge and beating him 3-0. That was cool, but that was 5 minutes. So it was very short. And then Sonic carving
through. That was 5 minutes? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, it was 5 minutes, 3 out of 5. Yeah. And what's it called? Yeah, I mean, MK in general, I think like was kind of a beatdown a lot of sets. There's only like a few sets that were close, and the matches were pretty fast. The top 8 was fluffed up with interviews and like these interstitial content that they had, which was cool, but probably not necessary for the top 8, like because some of the interviews are like people who are like, you know, like in pools or semis and stuff. But I actually think that the Tekken top 8 might have been slightly longer than the Mortal Kombat top 8. I think Mortal Kombat was about 2 hours 40 or 2 hours 30, and I think Tekken was over 3 or similar time. But that just shows you how exciting Tekken was, right? And how good it was that it just flew by. That you're like, this is fucking sick.
I don't think we didn't want it to end. We wanted Anakin to close it out. I think everyone wanted
we did want it to end so we can win without the reset.
Well, yeah, but once it reset, it was more dramatic. We wanted to see it go to the distance. I don't think anyone was waiting for that to end.
Yeah. I watched, what's funny is I was like, went to watch the MK thing on my stream and I saw the length and I was like, all right, I gotta like, plan my stream accordingly when I'm doing analysis. And then I realized like the actual matches are not that long. Like there's not a lot of matches to dig into for that top 8 when you compare it, which I was like, that's bad. This top 8 shouldn't be this long when the matches don't take that long. So yeah, there's definitely I think a pacing issue with how the top 8 production was. And also like I feel like the energy in the room was not near like Tekken. I feel like that was
not
just
even
too
The
good.
Tekken energy was insane. You could feel it.
Yeah.
You could just feel it. That was
I
just
think-
one of those beautiful moments. Like any human could feel and get excited about that Tekken 7 top
Yeah.
8, which is
I
what
actually
you
don't
kind of want with
understand.
fighting games.
I gotta say, I think it also has to do with the people doing the top 8. No, like with all due respect for the guys who did top 8 for it was Aquaman and David for MK, but no one is gonna top Steve and Rib
Yeah.
at their base form game, and Steve lifting up that chair in celebration, or I guess not celebration. But
So
he
the
said-
thing about commentary, and this is something that's unique to Combo Breaker, is that the commentary is pumped to the crowd. There's not that many events that do that these days. And when it comes to Rip and Steve, they're both S-class like Tekken commentators, but they are, I think, the 2 best fighting game commentators at working a crowd. I don't think anybody
Oh,
is better
yeah.
than
Yeah, and they're
those
in the
two.
pit. That's my favorite thing about Combo Breaker is having those top 8s where you have the hype commentators in the pit, surrounded by the people. They can look them eye to eye and get the energy going. So when I got top 8 in 2017, it was Yipes and Lee Chung, and that was beautiful. I will never forget the energy in that room, like them two in the crowd, hyping everybody up. And then same thing, I think Steve and Rip pulled it off amazingly, just being down there with the people, being part of the show, and just being fans of the game.
Yes.
And I actually usually hate commentary being pumped over the crowd because usually it's stream commentary, which works well on stream and I like it. But when you're
It's
in the
not good
crowd,
for the crowd.
I don't want to hear it. But with that style, you have to really go for that energy. And when that is pulled off, I think it's some of the best viewing experience at a tournament.
Yes, and it's specific, like knowing how to, from a commentator's perspective, knowing how to commentate for a stream and knowing how to commentate for the stream plus the crowd
It's
is
a whole
two
different-
very different things. And you have to be careful that even when you're commentating for the crowd, if the crowd loves it, you could still not be making an enjoyable experience for the viewer at home, and vice versa. But that was one of those combinations where like it was good for both. And the thing about them too is that like if you watch Tekken in the arena at Evo last year, those two were the announcers for the room, and they were crushing. I knew it was going to be good when Top 8 started, and they were like, all right, Rip and Steve are going to have the mic, and they were in the center right below the stage, and they both went, douche, ran out to the side like this, met up, they jumped on the stage, both of them, and were like, make some noise, motherfuckers, let's go. And then everybody was like, yeah, these are ready for Tekken. I knew at that point, I was like, well, whoever else has to do the stage mic or the announcer mic is going to bomb compared to this. This is going to be like the greatest thing we've ever heard. And their ability to work the crowd and have energy and like be big is so crazy that I remember we were talking about like how Tekken gets people involved even if they don't play the game. When they are at Evo, there was a stage security guy who was making sure the Ghost of Marvel didn't run up on the stage. So the security guy, he's sitting there and he's like, as Steve's like getting excited, he's like, this panda. And then the security guard's like, looking at the monitor, he's like, man, this is sick. This panda is beating the shit out of everybody, right? And then Steve's like, yo, even the security guy likes the panda. I see you smiling. And the security guy was like, and he like tried to get serious. So then the next time Steve was like, make some noise. He's like, yo, we got to make some noise for Wrong Chu, the panda player. Even you, security guard, you got to make some noise. And the security guy was like, yeah. And he was like clapping and shit. I was like, it's over. Steve won them all. You can't beat this guy.
And that guy immediately got fired.
Even when he had the mic, man, he had the mic in the arena, and some guy in the crowd was like, he had like a vuvuzela or something, and he was like, "Woo," making the noise and stuff. And Steve was like, yeah, like, all right. He's like, wait, that guy out there is making all that noise with that vuvuzela. That thing's annoying, man. Who was that? And he's like, nah, I'm just kidding, man. Do it again. And then the guy like does the vuvuzela. He's like, he's right there. Security, get him. He's right there. And he like pointed out. And like the fucking crowd was dying laughing. The crowd is laughing and shit. The noise is like, voo, voo, voo. Like he immediately stopped. He was like, oh shit, Steve's on to me. It was too good. So that kind of energy, that's like a combo breaker specific kind of commentary and energy. And I will tell you, as someone who's done it a couple times, like
Man.
being able to do the pit next to everybody in combo breaker is a very, very special feeling. No matter if you do like a Saturday top 8, a Sunday top, like whatever it is, a combo breaker, that is like a very exclusive and very like meaningful moment as a commentator for sure. It's awesome.
they have something like that with CEO coming up at the end of the month, where it's going to be like in a big arena. They had that with the wrestling event and the other top 8 events. I kind of vaguely remembered. It's been a while, but
I don't think they do pit commentary though.
No, the commentators for CEO. So like the way it is a wrestling ring, and there's like the intro ramp. Up where the intro ramp is, to the side of it is where the commentary is. So they're kind of like in a position where when the camera shot catches them, you can see the ring in the background.
I thought it was one of those things where they were positioned right like
ringside
next to the action. Yeah.
I wish, because I want someone to get power bombed through the announcer table, but unfortunately,
that'd be so sick.
they need to power bomb Hanzo Gonzo through the announcer table before Eunice top 8. But
with his do-rag on, by the way.
oh god. But no, it's up top. It's like the CEO's slightly split up a little bit in terms of how the commentary works.
It's really far, actually.
Yeah, but the commentary is pumped to the arena, but it's not like in the pit with everybody else.
I have a question though, and to go back to how Tekken, is it only because of Tasty Steve and Rip that Tekken has that kind of, audience? Because I feel like Street Fighter has always had golf claps.
I would say it's a supplement. A supplement to the
I
game.
feel like with Yipes and Lee Chong, it wasn't golf claps though, was it?
Not for 2017 top 8, it was different because it was all Americans in top 8. So the energy was a lot different. The problem with Street Fighter V is that there's no storylines right now, with Punk just dominating everybody, so it kind of sucks the air out of the room. It's what we expect.
Yeah.
You need storylines, and I feel like whenever you see Tekken 7 top 8s, first of all, the game is visually beautiful and exciting. Naturally, slow-mos occur. It's always going to be hype. But there's also kind of like this real mix of top players competing with each other. So obviously there's like mostly Koreans and the Japanese sometimes dominating, but there's the American players are very competitive, and we had an American in grand finals. So there's always something there kind of keeping the story of the tournament season fresh. And in Street Fighter V, that doesn't always happen. Either it's a little too random, or it's just someone just dominating.
I will also say that part of an experience like that relies on the commentary building narratives or stories, no matter what. So I will tell you that there are times where Tekken Top 8 has one American. Like the year that I remember like JDCR winning, I feel like there was like one American. I think it was Sukin that year, or there's like always one every year. And I feel like I remember even that year, it was a super exciting top 8. Like no matter if there's an American in the top 8 or if it's Korean players or whatever it is, it's part of the commentator's job to build the narrative and story and get exciting. And with Tekken's case, the game is going to be good no matter what. There will be like good matches, slow-mos, crazy finishes. Like the game is going to be interesting. And even if it's someone beating the shit out of someone, then you're like, the thing you can change to is look at the level of dominance. Like, look how good this guy is. You have no chance to defeat him. So even if it's Street Fighter's case and Punk is just beating people down, every low forward's confirmed, he's walking you down. Like, it is still the commentator's job to be like, Punk is unbeatable. You have to build the narrative and the storyline to make it exciting. Like, damn, this guy's a machine. He's the Terminator. He's like a T whatever. You can't kill him. He's impossible. He just walks you down and murders you. Like, he'll be a Mortal Kombat guest character. Like, you have to like really sell that moment and that thing. And the Tekken commentators, I feel like, are really good at it. And the game is always exciting. And in Street Fighter's case, if the narratives or the matches aren't going to be as good as you want, which Combo Breaker had great matches, then it's still the commentator's job to get excited, even if there's only American play or no American players in the top 8 and it's Japanese players. You still have to be excited about it. It's still your responsibility to build that energy.
So you can't deflate as a commentator.
What was that? Both you guys?
You can't deflate as a commentator when you're watching these matches.
And I'll tell you that Tasty Steve, it doesn't matter if there's all Americans or zero Americans. Like Tasty Steve and Rip will not deflate when something happens. Because I remember watching the top 8 where like an international player won, and I won't say who it was, but I heard like a hype commentator be like, "Man, he did it, he won," and I was like, boo, you are trash. You have to fucking be like, and there it is, he wins, he's unstoppable. Yeah. You have to be big in the moment. And if I hear on commentary a hype commentator deflate when like the Americans get out, or be upset when like their countrymen lose and like they're over it and they can't be excited for anybody else, I'm like, get them out. Night at the Apollo. Ring that motherfucker out of there. Like, you can't be excited for another player or high-level competition. I have to study every character and be the analyst no matter what. You can be excited if a guy from Japan wins a tournament. That's your job. You just have to do it.
Yeah, I think there's often that issue with Street Fighter V where people don't the things that separate top players in Street Fighter V are often subtle, unless it's like Punk just destroying people. Sometimes it's subtle why someone is destroying someone in Street Fighter V, and I don't think there's enough of expanding upon that from time to time to be like, look how great this is and exciting it is, even if they don't really think it's that exciting. I don't know. I think there is a level of due responsibility to try to keep things energetic in that level, and I think in Street Fighter V, it's not as visual as Tekken 7.
Yeah.
When someone is dominating Tekken 7, it just always looks badass. In Street Fighter 5, I feel like the commentator kind of has to carry a bit more weight just by the nature of the game.
Yeah.
And there's also a lot more history with Tekken 7 players because those dudes have been playing for their entire lives. So in Street Fighter 5, it's a little bit more random, or the storylines are a little bit more fresh. And I think sometimes people don't know the history of the players that well. And I think there's a little bit of that missing with Street Fighter 5. So
when the commentators are like, man,
commentators not studying enough some nuances with the game and some storylines, but also Tekken 7 just looks cooler.
Yeah.
Is it because of the juggles, you think, is part of it too? Because our combos don't look as cool?
I think there are some
way
cool.
more than just the juggles. I think.
Yeah.
Or is it like the colors?
I'll tell you
the way they
the
dash
character-
point blank into each other's face and just stare at each other
The,
over and
the
over.
character
It's
design
crazy.
also is really, really slick. Just the scaling and the way the characters look and the way they move and operate is super cool.
Here's the things. One, big hit animation on counter hits or big launchers. Like Brian does his forward 3 and it counter hits you. Boom! The character crumples. The screen zooms in. It shakes, right? Like when you hit like a big move like that.
Ooh, the
that
shaking,
one.
yeah.
That one is very big. The audio in the game is awesome. The stages are great and they have good music. And also when the moves counter hit or make big launches, they has like a big clap
Spark.
to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's like a big noise for it. Then visually they have slow-mos, which is like cheating. You can have two of the worst players in the world play against each other. Never played Tekken. If they have a slow-mo, everybody's going to scream. It's like cheating on commentary because no matter what's happening, you're like, oh, he puts him in rage, just got the blue back. Wah! You just yell because you're like, I don't know what the fuck to say. It's slow-mo. Slow-mo is super good. And then the rage arts and rage drives both have that big impactful moment. They screen freezes on them. It goes into that big thing and it happens so often.
That they have.
Yeah.
Dude, the music, or like when the music cuts and it goes into just like the heartbeat, it's really sick. And how every single character has a rage art full animation. It's not just a startup and then a move that comes out. It's actually like a full on, like we get to see how this character is outside of the bounds of just a normal fighting game. Like we get to see a little bit of their personality shine through the rage art.
Yeah, and then stuff like the movement or dashing in their face, backdashing, like someone gets a low parry and it's like, this is the big chance, the low parry. Like, you know, they do a good job of selling the big moments. You have to sell the big moments.
They come out of nowhere and entirely shift momentum. They just look amazing.
Yeah, and Tekken commentary, what's interesting is like Tekken commentary in general tends to be a little less analytic and a little bit more like boom, boom, boom. But like the game is just perfect for that style, I think. Like you don't even have time to be like, oh, he wants to sidewalk this way to get away from the wall, and so he's got to watch out for this. It's like, fuck that, this guy got hit by this, boom, he's dead. Like you have to do that shit, you know? You're like, damn, this is sick. So yeah, it is also on the commentators to make things tight, and I think Tekken has the best commentators, so it's not that surprising to me.
Yeah, well, we are hitting a pretty good amount of time here. We do have a big American event coming this month towards the end of it. We actually have a big CPT event going on right now with Taipei Major this weekend, which I highly encourage you guys to watch. It's been pretty entertaining, if so long as nothing blows up over there production wise. But CEO, big American event. I assume you gents are going as well.
Yeah, I'll be at CEO.
I will be there.
Cool. Yeah. There's going to be other than the games that are headlined over there, they are going to have Street Fighter League going on over there as well. I believe they have the mid-season championships going on.
Yeah, it's the top 4 teams going to play out for the finals. So whoever those guys are, play it out there.
Which will be determined on the next episode of SFL, I think.
Yeah.
We have next few.
There's not that many matches left.
Yeah, the top 4 seems to be almost locked in because of the amount of points and like the win differentials. It's still down to like, I feel like whoever's going to clutch out the top 2 spots from what it looks like. But the amount of points can't make a huge change from what I've seen. So.
I see. Well,
I think
I'm
they're
sure
on Friday, right? Is that what they?
Specifically, they haven't like. I don't know if they put it out.
It was
anywhere.
announced to be on Friday.
They just said CEO. They didn't say Friday.
No, they didn't announce anything.
I'm excited.
Said it's gonna get CEO.
I love how
I'm wondering how it's going to work out if people have Friday pools. Are they going to do it on Thursday beforehand? That's busy. That's a lot of pressure for one weekend.
Mhm.
I have a question, Jeremy. Do you know how the format is at the end? Is it just one more round robin, or is it like a bracket? Did they say that yet?
The end of towards the end of what, like the show or the midseason?
SFL at CEO.
So yeah, so how it's gonna work out is the top 4 are gonna be put into a bracket, 2 in winners and 2 in losers.
Okay.
Top 2 in winners and bottom 2 in losers, and then they're gonna play it out like a normal tournament.
What are the
With
standings as of
overtime.
right now?
Curly W says, all I know is that it's 8 p.m. Friday in the Red Bull room at
after
CEO.
pools, long day of competing.
Yeah.
That's a lot. It's a lot of money on the line for Street Fighter League, and of course, CPT is extremely important to every Street Fighter player.
Yeah.
Wasn't CEO a one-day event though for Street Fighter 5? Was only on Saturday.
I'm pretty sure it will not be because that sounds insane.
Mm.
That's a good question. I don't
I'm
know.
not sure
Curly
about
says no. Curly would know. I trust his
Usually
thoughts.
Evo, Combo Breaker, CEO, Final Round. Those are the ones I know always have. At least those have Friday pools as well.
Okay. Yeah, but it's just still pretty, a pretty big task for the guys participating in the CPT as well as SFL, that they have to do like a double header essentially in one day.
Well, they also have to wait until whoever the top 4 is determined via Street Fighter League to figure out who they can send over there.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen from like the current amount of points that it's like Inferno and Storm have got a ton of points because of how like Storm has been getting these OCVs and a lot of wins under their belt.
Yeah.
So it's looking like at least those Inferno and Storm are at least within the top 3. Because
Do you know when the cutoff will be when they know the top 4?
It should have been established or should be established by the next coming week. So
okay, I was gonna say, because if it's the Thursday before CEO, they got to book those overnight flights. You know what I'm saying? That would be unfortunate. Because there's no other way. It happens live every Thursday. There's no way they could know who's gonna make it. So I hope it's in the next.
Fly all of us out there just in case.
Yeah, I guess so.
I'm still impressed how Brian still manages to make his stream happen after SFL. He books it straight out of Burbank and he just Ubers immediately.
When you're dedicated to getting those Twitch primes, you can take no time off.
Teleport.
Lest I risk losing 1,000 subs.
That's one of the privileges of the West Coast is our teleportation devices.
Yes, West Coast has it all, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god!
Trust,
hear this again.
Trust me, when we did ESL, I understand. We'd show up. I'd bring 2 shirts. We'd be there for 2 weeks in a row. I'd teleport back the next Tuesday. I know how it works, fellas. No problems.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Me neither.
So, I mean, we've covered up a lot of the topics that's happened the last month. I mean, we can expect to do this again the following month in July. I think Steve has the scheduling planned out for that. Probably not by the look of his face. But any closing thoughts for today's episode?
I'll go last.
Overall, I thought Combo Breaker was a super fun event. Looking forward to how CEO is gonna, kind of set the tone as well going into Evo. But overall, I think a couple things that are important. The Gafrobox is one of the issues I really thought was kind of keen in all the topics we've talked about. I think just let it rock, honestly.
Just let it rock.
Yeah, that's all I have to say about that.
I do have to retract my statement. Like, I didn't mean it to where we need an arcade release for 2 years. It's just I want everything banned that aren't 6, but I know it's not plausible. It's
Hell
just
no.
Logistically, it's not.
It's just I want wireless pads banned. I hate wireless pads.
And this is a PS4 design issue. This is not a pad issue.
Correct.
And it makes me so upset that there's still wireless pads.
I'm sure PS5 will consider the plight of the
so
tournament.
long as it looks like half a steering wheel, like the original PS3 design controller.
Initial T.
Yeah, that thing was awful.
Everybody's going to be playing on the Initial T fucking Guilty Gear pad controller. It's wired, no problem.
Because I just don't understand. Because before in PS3, it was like they did have wireless pad as a default.
What about Guitar Hero controllers?
Bruh.
What about them?
Charge characters, you hold down on the strum and then you hit up to do the...
Yeah, dude. I want to see someone come in with like a Gran Turismo setup. Just
when
to
you gotta
play,
mash a
some
Marvel
15
Super,
minutes.
use the whammy bar. Let's fucking go.
my
You guys aren't trying to see me. My Guitar Hero
Slick.
controller.
There are people that play on the Guitar Hero controller, right? It was the Eno
There's an
player.
Eno player, yeah.
I don't know. I just feel like the Gafrobox was a huge issue, and at this point, I think you should let it rock and let everything else rock. Because if you're gonna have like picky regulation just because a player decides to play on it, I think that's wrong. You either let everything rock or you let nothing rock.
Or you
you
just
just
come up with
invest
rules.
and have more detailed rules and
Yeah.
actually flesh it out. We don't have to do all or nothing, but they should actually do something.
Yeah, they should come up with. I think probably by the end of the year they'll have something that's like, here are the rules, and we'll sort it out from there. That's probably like the way they'll do it.
Yeah, there's someone that actually said compared to Smash tournaments. Remember when Smash like just straight up banned the hitbox?
Yeah, they were quick.
Yeah, they were quick about it.
They said it doesn't follow the competitive spirit of Smash. Maybe that's where Capcom got their line. They're like,
Is that what that was?
Is that
They
what they
don't-
said?
Yeah, they're like, we want everybody to have carpal tunnel. It doesn't follow the competitive spirit of having your hands ruined playing on this fucking controller designed 20 years ago. So everybody has to use the the GameCube controller.
And it was a sponsor for SCR that same year.
Yeah, they allowed the box, but they banned the Smash box. That's correct. For Melee.
No,
anyway.
they actually had the Smashbox as one of the sponsored slides over at SCR.
I read the sponsored slides for Combo Breaker, and they had the Smash box playable there too. I was like, all right, there we go.
What's the difference between the box and the Smash box?
This is designed
has
differently.
A million more inputs. Smash
Yeah.
it has so many more inputs
It's like
required because it's
Seat
analog.
stick. Yep. As well. Yep.
So
Yeah.
it's not just left or right. It's like soft direction or full direction or smash direction based on the speed you're pressing it. So
Yep.
it's totally, there's a million more directions required.
It looks like the Star Trek Enterprise control panel to operate this thing. It's got like 25 buttons.
Yeah, if you don't know how Smash works technically, if you look at a Smash box, I think it immediately conveys the idea that this game is more technical than I think a lot of FGC people even acknowledge.
Shit is hard.
There's a lot more going on that they managed to squeeze into few buttons because of that analog type of control scheme that I don't think people get in the FGC.
Yep.
I see.
So that was mine. I don't know about you guys. Final thoughts.
My closing thoughts are everyone should be using Hitbox and casual plebs for sticking with our outdated ancient devices. And one day, I mean, our pad overlords are already taking over, and Hitbox is the next evolution of that. And either get with the times or get out, old man. Streaming, losing thousands of subs when you go travel to a tournament is an amazing problem to have. Congratulations, you made it. And you're reinvesting in your brand. So yeah, it sucks to see that number go down, but you're reinvesting in what got you there in the first place. So congratulations. Top player privilege. I don't know what Tatsu's talking about. As a person invested in the community, it's in your best interest to do things good for the community and give back, because that's what got you to where you are in the first place. But don't tell people what to do. VIP areas, yeah, we should have maybe an area for top 8 people to sit behind and warm up. I want more space for pools so people don't get, the crap beat out of them while they're trying to play their pools matches. That's not cool. And CEO should be fun.
Nice.
You said
Good
everything,
summary.
man.
What
I
about
agree with
you,
everything
Anton?
Brian said, except we need to look into the Gafrobox more. It needs to
Get our
looked
top
into.
scientists on it.
Yeah, I need to know what it can do before I allow it.
I want a full essay on my desk tomorrow morning about why we should allow the Gafrobox with
Yeah,
all the research. Your doctorate
For streaming and traveling,
dissertation.
traveling got you to the point where you could be this top streamer. You got yourself exposure. I think that Tatsu is wrong, and people don't owe you shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and CEO is going to be hella fun, and everyone should be thinking about their entrances, because anyone has
That's
a fighting
right.
chance to make top 8.
It's true.
Anyone.
It's true. Whether you're wearing a stupid jersey or not.
Yes, the stupid jerseys, man. You can go.
Yeah, CEO should be a blast. Daytona's awful, so try to stay inside the venue or your hotel as much as possible. That place is dog shit. Thanks everybody for tuning into the podcast. I appreciate you guys. Last time a lot of people demanded. They're like, look, I can't possibly turn on this YouTube video and listen to it in the background. I need it on iTunes and Spotify and I don't know what else, Google Play or whatever the fuck else people think is. So we put it on all those things last time. If you want to watch it on one of those things, or if you know somebody who wants to watch it on that, it'll go up on all those different platforms later on. That's part of the plan. We did it last time. It'll go up on all those things this time if you want to listen to it instead of rewatching it. If you missed it or you caught it late or there's parts you didn't catch or anything like that, or you want to send it to people, it will be on YouTube. It'll go up on there. Right now, it's like the current video. If you go to my channel, the last podcast is on there, so you can check it out there. If you want to listen to it on any of those places, you want to check it out on YouTube, any of the RSS feed acceptable places, No problem. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Thanks everybody for dropping Twitch Primes. And thanks to these folks for coming on and saying what's good. And go follow all of them. They all have social media. They all have channels you can check out. They all play Street Fighter or fighting games and stream to some extent and have Twitter opinions to some extent. So go check them all out. Thanks to them for coming on the channel. Thanks to all you guys for tuning in. We'll see you guys next time. Have a good one. Peace out, everybody.
See ya.
Which one of these buttons do I fucking hit? There we go.